Welcome to the Monopoly Mindset, the podcast where we uncover the strategies to build your real estate portfolio one property at a time.
We're your hosts, Tyler and Tommy, here to share our story of playing real-life Monopoly.
Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, this is your go-to resource for mastering the real estate game.
So grab your board, roll the dice, and let's buy Boardwalk together. Welcome back to the Monopoly Mindset, episode number 22. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, we had on Anthony Scornienci, who is a high school gym teacher, a real estate investor, and an agent, which he was just a wealth of knowledge for us and honestly just a workhorse. Me and Tommy talk a lot about getting our real estate license, and he gave us a lot of good input into like what that would look like. So go ahead and listen to that. Like I said, he's honestly just kind of inspirational. Like he just grinds and he is really good at like the whole time management thing and dealing, juggling all these things. So yeah, I came out of that.
Just the passion that he exudes about real estate. It reminds us a lot of ourselves and how passionate we are about real estate. And it was fun to have an episode with somebody that was so passionate and just to like feel that passion through the screen. Like there were times that he just made us want to get more invested in real estate or think more about real estate. So it was a really fun episode for us. So definitely tune in if you missed that. Anthony is a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, it was awesome. So today we're just going to do another episode, just Tommy and I, more of, again, like a pass and go segment. We've had a good amount of stuff happen the last couple weeks. So why don't you go ahead and kick us off and tell us where you're at?
Yeah. So for my week of pass and go, it was a little bit more eventful. I know I told everybody we had some issues with getting our appraisals for TDJ. And so once you get bad appraisals back, you kind of have like 2 to 3 options. You can either request a new appraisal, you can rebuttal the appraisal and try to like fight it, or you can just take it as it is and give up hope on a refinance or whatever thing that you're working on at that time, or pay extra money to make it work. So we went with the rebuttal option, and I started going through some of the comps that they used. And Ty, get this, one of the comps literally was sold for $180,000 a year ago, right? And that's what they used as a comp. It sold for $210,000, the same comp, a week after the report came out.
So somebody flipped it, or I guess they...
Honestly, it didn't look like the photos were flipped. Maybe the photos, like sometimes they revert back to the previous photos. So maybe somebody did flip it. But for like $20K in like 6-7 months, I don't really know. Seems weird. But like, dude, at first I was livid. I was like, are you effing kidding me? Like these guys used an appraisal from last year, and then this property already sold this year. Like, what are they doing? And I saw it was from 6/13 the property sold, and they finished the report on like 6/10. So it was like 3 days after. But they must have saw that it was pending. Like, regardless, I was like, that's at least $20K towards my property that should be there. Versus, based off if they're still going to use that property as a comp. And a lot of their comps
also,
are just... Go ahead.
You're telling me that 3 or 4 houses haven't sold more recent than a year ago? Like, that's way too old. And I know that area is a little smaller, but there's got to be something within the last 3 to 6 months.
1,000%. That's like the first thing. I'm like, why are these all a year old? They're all from like last year. Like real estate goes up. Like the current market is up higher than it was a year ago, especially in that specific area. And they're already like, some of the issues we had was like giving us 3-bed, 1-bath versus the 5-2 that the property really is. And I've talked to some other people, and they're like, it's kind of odd that they're saying that because it's below ground, they're not classifying it, because there is a walkout door to that basement. And like this company was also saying even by levels, they don't classify the basement as like livable, which I'm pretty sure most companies do classify by levels as livable space. It was just a very odd appraisal and like experience. And to your point, when I know Zillow's not 100% accurate. Like when I told my realtor, oh, Zillow said 245, he's like, well, Zillow's not accurate. Like I think realtors have like this hate towards like, oh, well, Zillow's like, these estimates are so wrong, stop giving them to me. But dude, Zestimates are just computers analyzing what they think the market rate is or what the
Yeah,
market.
I think part of it is like they feel like they're getting their job is being taken over by Zillow and they don't want to like accept that. I mean they are right, like, but my appraisals have always come in very close because what I've kind of learned is like, okay, you could say Zillow's wrong, right? But what do 90% of people use when they're looking at how much a house is worth? They use the Zestimate. Therefore, that's what they're going to want to pay. And if 90% of people are willing to pay this price, therefore then it becomes correct, right? Like if everybody thinks Zestimate is correct and then that's what they want to pay, that does become the value of the house because the value of a house is just what people are willing to pay for it. So, I mean, yeah, don't use it like 100%, but all my appraisals, honestly, personally, and this is probably area dependent, my appraisals, like professional appraisals, have always come back higher than my Zestimate.
Yeah, I know you've had a lot more luck than I've had when it comes to appraisals and how they've worked out for you. I think part of me is just being in a smaller market. Sometimes it's a little bit tougher because I've even had bankers say like this area is appreciated. It's been underappreciating for so long for being such a good market. Comparatively speaking to like some of the other areas there, and it because of it's been underappreciating, it's now appreciating slightly more, and a lot of these appraisers don't want to give it that appreciation. So that's been an issue. And then in Florida, there's just so much saturation. The appraisers were trying to keep houses like lower because they didn't want them to keep raising the values. So they were trying to keep them lower. Like the appraiser literally told us that when we were here, which was pretty weird. So yeah, I'm with you. But like when I kept looking at properties that sold more recently for this house, there were a ton of comps like over 220 to 240, which was exactly what we were looking to get for 3 bed, 1 bath, similar square footage. And I'm like, I I get like reaching too for a property. Like if there's no specific comps and you have to reach, like that's fair, right? Like then reach. But if you have specific comps, like so when I put in 3 bed, 1 bath, 1,500 square feet and 7,500 yard or for like the land, when I put all that in, there were like 4 houses that popped up. And so you take the average all those four, and I think it was like 230 of what my appraisal should be based off the ones that fit that exact criteria. And they had houses that were like 2 bed, 1 bath as comps, which obviously you're losing a bedroom and like there's 1,000 square feet. I don't comprehend
Well,
how
and
that.
your house is a 5 bed, 2 bath, and like you said, there the two bedrooms were in the basement, but like I think every city will say, I don't know if it's like township, county, city, or state, but they have laws on what is considered a bedroom, and usually it's like an egress, like you need to have like a door and a window or something. And if you have that and it's finished, I don't see how they could say, oh, it doesn't count because it's in the basement. Like this room right here next to me is a bedroom in the basement, and it has always counted on every appraisal, inspection, everything that I've ever gotten. So I don't even see how they're saying it's a 3 bed, 1 bath when it's a 5 bed, 2 bath. Again, just because it's in the basement, I just don't. That doesn't make sense to me.
It
So
was, yeah, and like I said, they even like they made the argument. They threw in buy levels too, and they're like, yeah, we would classify a buy level the same way. Which I'm like, you guys are ridiculous, and that's where like it leads me to, hey, I filled out my report. I said, hey, this is what I think this property is worth. I would appreciate you guys raising the value on property A, and I'm just gonna hope for the best. But I gave them a ton of much better comps. Plus, the comp that they used is now up $20,000 more, which should definitely help us out as well. So I'm. It's really tricky though, like because we got 183, we wanted 240. I don't know if you're gonna get $60,000 more, but if we can get 30 to $40,000 more, or 50, like maybe it helps us make sense for what we're trying to do. And then the other property came in at 193, which wasn't terrible. Like I think it's worth around 200 anyway. I was hoping to get a little bit more, like 205, 210. Zillow says 230, which it's a townhome, and townhomes in this specific area of Dallas are there's not many townhomes that are for sale. So there's really no comps. That's been the issue with getting these appraised all the time, is there's no comps for townhomes in that area because they don't have a ton of them. There's actually one listed for 230 right now in the neighborhood, and I'm like, please sell, please sell, please sell, so we can use it as a comp. And then there were actually a strip of townhomes that sold, 6 of them for like 1.2 million, and then when 1.25. And when you do the math, it's like $208,000 per townhome. And that's about 3 miles away. It's in Harvey's Lake Township versus Dallas. But because there's no other townhomes in Dallas, this guy went to Wilkes-Barre, which is not comparable to Dallas. It's like a much less desirable area to live, right? So you're going to go to less desirable area and get me comps and say it's 193. I think he did a good job, honestly, like getting close to that 193. But if we could get the 208 from something that's 4 miles away, and I mean, they're all on the same road, this strip of townhouses, it's like right after it switches from Dallas to Harvey's Lake. Hopefully that will help us get a little bit extra, and then we can still do a refinance. And if this option doesn't work, these rebuttals and like kind of going back, another scenario, like I was talking with Ryan and Corey from the Wealth Juice, which is the inner circle that Ty and I are a part of. They came up with a good solution that a lot of lenders or like appraisers that you use, like build relationships with them as much as you build relationships with your bankers and like other people, your realtors. Because if you have a good appraiser that knows what you're looking for, like they want business too. And it made me think that when we did some of our other refinances, we found an appraiser that got us exactly what we wanted. And like maybe that's somebody that we should introduce to, the loan company we're using and say, hey, can you use this appraiser? And that might get us closer to the numbers that we want to get. And for us, if they just look at our house as a 5.2 versus a 3.1, we're most likely at that 240 range that we want to be at anyway.
Yeah, I don't think many banks will let the owner give the appraisal company because, I mean, that's like potentially, obviously, like a conflict of interest, but I think you'd have to almost switch banks. Have you considered that? Because like I know you went to the bank and said, "Hey, I don't agree with this appraisal." They aren't going to go hire a different appraisal company, right? They're like, "Sorry, this is the one that we use." And you can rebuttal it, but you can't get a different appraisal unless you could, I guess you could just theoretically you could go on your own, pay for an appraisal out of pocket, but like an appraisal always has like this is intended for this specific bank. And if they don't have that in the appraisal, the bank won't use it. So,
Yeah, but so this is a DSCR loan. Like I respect what you're saying specifically for banks because they're a pain in the butt to deal with and they're very difficult and they have a lot more parameters with what they will use, what they won't use. And so you're 100% right. Like even if you switch banks, you have to get the appraisal company to switch the name on the appraisal so that like to that other bank or they won't use it. So they're very strict. I don't think DSCR companies are as strict because they're more like, hey, we want you to get this loan because we want you to take out the money at this higher interest rate. And they like trust investors. Like they're not really looking at, debt to income and like all this other stuff. They're just like saying, hey, this property is going to cash flow. Like, here you go. Here's your loan. We trust you to figure it out. So I think from that perspective, we'll be okay. They did bring it up to us. They almost feel bad though, because you have to pay like $500 for an appraisal. They're like, do you want to pay another $500 for a different appraisal? I actually used this appraisal company when I bought my other house, Woodlawn, and it appraised right where we needed it to be. So they just used this company again because they thought they were good.
but that was on a purchase, right?
Yeah, that was on a purchase.
Purchases, we've noticed like well, I've heard one story of the appraisal not coming in, and that's the house you're sitting in. But like, I feel like for most purchases, they're like, all right, you got it under contract for 190. Most of the time, the appraisal comes back 195, 200. I feel like typically it doesn't come back way over. I've actually had that happen on the duplex. Like my appraisal came back 43,000 over what I got it what I bought it for. But and I feel like typically they try and at least get you that 190. But a refinance is tough because there's nobody saying that they'll buy the property for 230, right? So like it's a little bit harder, and especially like you said in a smaller area like where I live, you can go a quarter mile from any house and have 4 comps that sold in the last 2 months. So yeah, I think that's just one of the struggles of being in like a smaller market.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we'll see. I might look up who our other appraiser was and just give that information. Not like a warm handoff, like, hey, I know this guy's Tyler Brown. Here's his social security number. Like, use him. Like, we're not going to do that. But if I say, hey, why don't you use Ace Realty LLC? Like, I think they're a little bit better. Maybe they can then make that call and initiation, and like I'll pay the extra to get that appraisal and see if it can come back a little bit higher. It's also tough, like when you're not there personally. Like I would I prefer to go there, show up to the property, say, hey, this is what we're hoping for. These are the comps we've used in the past. Like if you go that extra mile, I found that you have a much higher success rate of getting the numbers that you want.
Yeah,
So
I did that on the duplex for when I refinanced. I met with the appraiser and we walked the property together and I told them all the things that I had done, like renovations, and then we also just talked for like 15 minutes after about investing, and like he was a flipper, and it definitely, again, you're not allowed to give them a number, you're not allowed to sway their opinion legally, but I don't think getting a good rapport with somebody can hurt you, we'll say.
well, and Corey and Ryan, when they were talking about it, they definitely made it sound like they get good relationships with appraisers, and at least the lenders they're using have good relationships with certain appraisers, and it's like kind of they included it in their real estate team and said that it can be very valuable. So I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. Something else you and I used to talk about all the time, which I still don't comprehend how to make it work, is how can we like buy the property? Tom Stelzer buys it, I fix it up, I flip it completely, but then like Tyler Brown buys the property. So instead of taking it to the bank for the refinance and having these issues, it's like, no, we bought it for 100, we put 50 into it, we want to sell it for 200. Not dealing with any appraisals. Like Ty comes in, buys it for 200, we get the actual money that we wanted, everything works out, and we move on. That is something that I would love to figure out how to master so that we could grow without dealing with the issues of refinancing.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear that we've never done that, and there might be some legality things there. Like for example, I don't think I can flip a house and sell it to my wife and keep it because we're married. I don't know. I'm just saying that I've heard of people on Bigger Pockets doing something similar, but yeah, basically what you're saying is like if you want to do a burr where you go to refinance, instead of getting an appraisal for a high number, you sell it to, we'll say, a business partner, but I don't know how it works. Like if me and you are both on the original title, I don't think we can sell it to one of us, or I'm not sure. I would just have to, we would have to check with like a lawyer or something to figure out
Yeah, I
kind
didn't
of
mean to trip Ty up. We're not trying to do anything illegal by any means. It's something that we've heard several times, and it just gets away from the issues of having an appraisal at times. And not that appraisals are usually that bad. They're supposed to work. They work better in some markets, like for ties, and they work worse in other markets. But it was more of like a unique strategy that people were doing from a burr perspective without going to the bank. Sometimes banks, when you refinance, are less likely to give you the appraisal that you want versus if you're going to purchase it. And that was kind of the joke that I was making, not
Yeah.
necessarily serious. If we ever come up with
No, I mean,
how,
I think there is something there, and I've
yeah,
heard of people doing something involving that strategy. I just don't know the specifics behind it. The best strategy that I've ever heard was on Bigger Pockets like 4 years ago. This guy would buy 5 houses on the street and flip 3 of them and burr 2 of them. And so he was making his own comps where he would flip 3 for like top of the market. Like let's say the average was 200. He would flip 3 and do like really high end finishings and stuff and sell them all for 230. He would keep 2, and now he has 3 comps for 230. They're his own comps that he flipped, but like he basically, again, high end finishings would get like top of the market for those 3, and then he was able to use those 3 for his own burrs on the same street. So if you can buy 5 properties at once, you can almost create your own comps, and that was awesome.
If you could find that episode, I would love to re-listen to that because that
It
is
was
what a ballsy strategy too. Like you're just like, you know what, F the banks, I'm taking this into my own hands, and that's great.
dude, I think it was a guy. I'm not going to be able to find it, but I think it was a guy that bought a high school or elementary school, turned it into like 20 apartments and was cash flowing. Dude, he got it for like I want to say something like $200,000, like crazy. I think he did put in like a $2 million renovation, but then it appraised for like 4 million, and he was cash flowing like 40 grand a month.
So we
I
should have
might
done
have
with
to,
South Brandywine
I know, dude. I always like I drive by like vacant schools, and I'm like, dude, that's like 20 apartments right there.
for
But
sure. Well, South probably just needed to be ripped down, but
yeah, it's gone. Rest in peace. But yeah. So let's see. My week, I
well, here
had
I got one other thing that's going on.
yeah.
So other than those refinances, I'm still tabling the refis in my own mind of like my properties. I think I have a lot more flexibility based off where my loans are and where TDJ's loans are at that I should be able to refi even if my appraisals don't come back in like exactly what Zillow's at, which I think I'll have a better shot at getting my appraisals. But regardless, I still haven't made my official decision on what I want to do. I'm leaning towards figuring it out and going forward with the refinance, but I just haven't made the action to it yet. So we'll see if I officially or when I officially make up my mind. I just want to keep calculating the numbers and like I don't know. It's just a tough decision to completely go ahead and like lose several $100s in cash flow, but I'm like if I get the extra money, you can buy something and then leave some money in the account. Like I'm basically pre-funding my expenses, right? Like my, 10% for vacancy or 10% for repairs, like just pre-funding it versus funding it with the cash flow. So I'm like if I do it that way, kind of makes sense. And yeah, anyway, if you can't tell, I'm still all over the place trying to figure that out.
Do you think
And
do you think maybe a solution would be go to a bank, the bank that you want to potentially refinance with, and the bank that you would do your next purchase with, and say, like, look, I want to do a refinance for my next property, but I don't want to do that refinance until I have something under contract. So, like, let's say you go buy a $400,000 property that requires 100 grand down. Explain to them, like, hey, if I get this property under contract, can you get the refinance done in 2 weeks? And then we'll close 2 weeks later. And then you're kind of like, you're not using that money until you actually need it. I don't know if that's possible, but if it's the same bank, I feel like they could get it done quick enough, especially if they have like all the information now.
yeah, unfortunately, the the problem will become like, oh, we have to rerun your credit or redo this, and like I'm not doing anything like risky or like that would really affect a loan. I could just see that being a slight hiccup. I respect what you're saying, but if I make the decision to move forward, like even when I did my last, like when I sold my other property, and I know it was a sale versus a refinance, I got the money and I just had it sitting in 4% checking account, but having access to it felt more like I'd rather just have the money sitting in an account getting the 4% versus like and then like if I need it I can buy it for like versus doing your strategy of holding off until I find the other property. I
Yeah,
I'd
but
rather go the other way.
that 4%, you're paying 6% to borrow that money, so you are
Yeah.
losing 2% every single month. But I mean, I agree. It's tough to look at properties when you know you don't have the money. But I don't know. I think it's worth asking the bank again. If you use the same bank for the refi and the purchase, maybe they have some scenario like that. It's almost like getting a HELOC where like you're not actually using the money until you need it. But
It's like, hey, let's get this set up ready to go. Once I find a
yeah,
property, we'll pull the trigger and then I'll use that money to buy this property and you're also going to get both loans.
yeah.
Um,
Sure, you don't
so
even have to give me the money. Just transfer it right to the escrow account. And
yeah, I mean, at that point though, you're almost like setting yourself up for like a 1030. Well, I guess a sale is a 1031 exchange. You
yeah,
don't pay any taxes on a refinance, which is still one of the most insane things in real estate that you can just pull out $50,000 in a HELOC or a refinance or whatever, and tax-free cash. Like,
Yeah. Well, because it's technically debt, not income.
yeah, for sure. The other thing I was going to bring up, Woodlawn is getting remodeled slash repaired. So we've had a lot of showings. I was a little bit nervous. Once I get my property listed on the market, I put it up there for 2,500 to for rent, and I told you I went down to 23 and 22, and now I'm down to 2,000. Right after I listed mine for 25, two other houses went up. One was for 2,200 or 23, and the other one was for 22. That both looked nicer than my house because it was outdated. Like it needed some, slight touch ups with paint and things like that to look a little bit better. So the other two houses got rented. Granted, we had applications, but Casey, my property manager, didn't like the other applicants and decided to let them not. He just wanted to keep seeing what else we could get. So we finally have somebody that is interested that we accepted their application. They should move in the middle of July. So we're going to start like July 15th, I believe. And the property is currently we got paint getting done throughout pretty much the entire house. There's like pink and purple bedrooms and just like touch-ups and scrapes all over from it being lived in for 30 years. There's a second kitchen upstairs with some cabinets that we're just going to rip it all out so it's done and over with and like make it an extra bedroom. Eventually, that's the plan, is to have college students in there and make it a bedroom, but figure we might as well just rip out those cabinets and stuff now and have that extra space up there. The upstairs bathroom is very outdated, so we're just gonna probably put some new fixtures in there, maybe a new vanity, maybe a new toilet, repaint it. Slapping a coat of paint on an entire house really makes it look a lot better, and that's what we're gonna do here, is just pretty much update the bathroom and then put some new floors in a couple areas of the house. I think the kitchen needs it. Leave the hardwood where the hardwood is, but sometimes they put this. It's something they did in older houses where they would put. It's almost like a very old laminate. It's like plastic. It looks like that they put over the floor, and it's just real ugly. So kind of just ripping that up and putting some laminate down over top of it to make the house look a lot nicer. Once we do all that, I think the house is going to be in pretty good shape. We'll get it rented for a year. See if they want to stay longer or not, but the hope would be that they're out in a year and then I can rent it to college students starting next year.
Cool. So you're getting 2,000.
Yep.
And what's your mortgage?
My mortgage there is $1,500, so it's
Principal
definitely
or interest and or taxes and insurance too.
yeah, taxes, insurance. I think it's like 1470. Plus, then I pay my property manager. So really, there's only $300 left, and that's not including. That's one thing I need to get better at too. I think typically calculate your 10% for vacancy, repairs, maintenance, stuff like that. I'll typically just say I get the $300 because I leave it in one account, so I don't really use it as a cash flow. You know what I mean? I leave it all in there. So I say it's $300, but with other expenses, it's definitely less. $2,000 on this property is not great. It's a 5 to 6 bedroom, so I anticipate renting it to 5 or 6 college students at $500 a pop, $2,500 to $3,000. That's the goal for the property, but looking at it as a seasoning period. Let me fix it up, let it look a little bit nicer. Let's get it rented, and worst case, these people decide to stay a couple years, and I have a property I'm not making a ton of money on, but it's at least covering my mortgage. And whenever I can get them out of there, I can put some college students in there and get some higher rent.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't have to allow them to extend their lease. You could do a year and then say hey, sorry, I got other plans.
Yeah, exactly. Or I can, rent increase to $2,200 if they decide they want to stay there or something. So I'm with you. That's my goal, and that's why I want them to start as soon as possible, because I want them out of there as soon as possible, so that when I do have the college students next year, they typically want to move in June, July timeframe. So if it's going to say, hey, I have a house, it's just not going to be ready till July. Do you have somewhere to put your stuff? If not, we can try to figure something out at that point. But that's my scenario. So it's just kind of a seasoning period till next year, and then I'm excited to get that house rented out to some college students. I think it'll do really well as a college rental. So I'm excited about it long term, but at least we have it under contract to get rented.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got a story kind of talking about setting aside maintenance and repairs. So I think this week So on the duplex, I pay the water and sewage bill myself, and then I charge the tenants that. Just because, so like with electric, typically, if you don't pay your electric, it's not like it's not like a city utility. So like the electric company's private. If you don't pay your electric, they just shut your electric off. But there's nothing like a tied to like the property. Um, so like if the tenants don't pay their electric goes off, but I'm still paying my mortgage, everything's fine. With a city utility like water and sewer, that's like attached to your property the same way it's like property taxes. So my realtor just always said like, hey, just pay it yourself so you know it's getting paid because if you don't pay it, I think I don't want to say foreclose, but like there could be a lien on your house the same way that if you don't pay property taxes. So anyway, again, I just charge them so they're actually paying for it, but I'm actually making sure that it gets paid to the city. So the one side with the tenant, great tenant, his bill was three times the amount that it's been for the last 2 years. And I looked at the bill and he used three times the amount of water. And I texted him, I was like, hey, like, do you have any reason why you think you would have used three times the amount of water? Like, I was like, did he put in like a hot tub or a pool or something? And he was like, he said my toilet was running for like a day, like a whole day, but I fixed it. And he said it happened twice in the last 3 months. And I was like, okay, like this is where it's kind of tricky. And he's a great tenant. So his bill's usually like 100 a quarter. So every 3 months, it was 300. And again, he's a great tenant. He fixed it himself. He didn't even reach out to me, which is, it's like, do I want him to reach out to me if he can do it himself? Not for all these little things, but in this case, it cost us like $200 a month. So I said like, hey, I appreciate you fixing it, but I said this time for this 3 months, I will pay the extra 200 and you can just pay like your normal amount. And dude, he's the best. He was like, I don't feel comfortable with that. Like, I don't think you should have to pay 200. Like, I'll pay more than the normal amount, which I feel like typically you don't have arguments over who wants to pay more. But I was like, okay, I mean, like, why don't we split it 50-50? So I did pay 150 out of pocket and he paid about 150. But anyway, during all that, he was like, oh, by the way, his shower when I bought the place had like holes in the fiberglass, and he said like it's kind of getting worse and water's starting to go behind the cracks, which again, you just don't want water behind your shower wall because that's just going to create, I don't know, it'll just destroy the wood over time. So I have my contractor going over there to look to replace the shower, which is something that I knew when I bought it would need done in the future. So in terms of like setting money aside, that's probably going to be like $3,000 or $4,000, which is like the cash flow on that property for the year, which is, it's kind of stinks, but I just have such a high rate on this property that it doesn't cash flow a ton right now. So if you have to replace a shower, that's a majority of your cash flow, but that's, once every 15, 20 years. So I'll also probably get the bathroom painted, and just make it look nice for him. Because again, he's a good tenant, and I do need to fix his place up a little bit over time.
Yeah, so it's a perfect opportunity while you have some things going on there. Just go ahead, fix it up. Like, even though it's the $3,000 expense, an updated bathroom that looks a lot nicer should help your property value too. So when rates do hopefully drop in a year, or I'm hoping they drop in like 2 years, 3 years. Like, I'm really thinking that that's going to happen. Even if it doesn't, though, like, your property's still going to go up in value, and you can eventually refinance and pull some of that money out, or you can just look to sell it. But it's been a good property and a good duplex for you, so I think you'd want to keep it long term. So hopefully rates drop and you can pull out that extra money, and so the more that you do a repair, like, you're going to get that $3,000 back for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then other than that, I mean, knowing that I'm moving soon, I'm just going to be super busy in the next month, not on like looking to grow, which is, tough, but I'm basically just putting a pause on like growing, one, because I'm going to be out of money, and two, I just have a lot going on. So my current house, my basement's actually, I don't want to say flooded, but had water come into it twice in 4 years. And, when I live here, I can clean it up, but I know that I need to get that fixed before I rent it out. So I got like 3 waterproofing companies coming to look, and then that's going to require them to dig up this tile right here. And I don't know if I'll be able to find the same tile to like repair it. So then I'll probably have to dig up all the tile and put laminate down. We also upstairs like took out a bedroom and put in like sliding glass doors to make it more of like an office, but it's more valuable as a rental with it as a bedroom. So like I'm having a contractor basically come in and just like do all this small stuff to get it ready. So like put that wall back, fix the flooring in the basement after we get it waterproof, just like minor stuff. And then at the same time, I'm having contractors, I'm starting to talk to contractors about getting quotes to do stuff for my future house, which we want to do a few things before we move in. But obviously, like, I can't have them come look at it and give me a quote until we close. So I'm more just kind of like trying to get like dates, like, hey, give people a month ahead of time to say, like, hey, I closed July 31st. We would like to do this before we move in. So ideally, like, can you put it on the schedule, get the quotes, kind of feel out what we're looking to spend. Really, we just want people to redo our master bathroom is like the biggest one. And then we do have to repair a roof. But so I kind of got like 3 different houses renovations going on right now. So I've just been calling people and getting quotes and things like that.
Is your moving date going to be August 16th?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're supposed to close July 31st. I think Danielle would like nothing more on her birthday than to move all day. So yeah, let's plan on that. But we'll probably move in like 2 weeks after closing, and so that'll be like painting the new house, fixing the roof. There's just like a small section of roof that needs replaced. Hopefully get the master bath redone, and then we'll do a lot of the rest of the stuff while we live there. But there's just a few things that we want to do, and then we'll move our stuff over. Probably then get the contractor in this place once it's empty, because like part of me is like, all right, I could do all this stuff now, but it's just so much easier if the house is empty. Like I don't have to move all the furniture from one room to another and then move it to the new house. Like I could just move it to the new house and then have a contractor walk through it. Being empty, it's just so much easier for them, for me.
Yeah,
But
there's nothing worse than living through construction, no matter what it is. Like a kitchen is probably the worst thing to live through and deal with, but like anything, when you just have to like vacate a part of your house is always annoying. Like we had our floors just redone. Like we had to, we can only stay on this side of the house, move furniture this side of the house. Like it's not fun living. And then even for the contractors, like they know that you're living there and they know they have to get done sooner. Not that they don't want to get done soon, but then they also have to move all this extra stuff, where if they can just get into a vacant house, they can complete their renovations so much quicker.
yeah, but then at the same time, it's tough because like if you're renting a house out for $3,000 a month, that's $100 a day. So every day that it takes me longer to like prepare it to rent out, I look at it as I'm losing $100 a day. So like I definitely want it to be ready fairly quickly after we move out, but I don't want to move out and then take 2 months to like do these things. So that's why I'm kind of like preparing them now, trying to like get on their books and just get quotes. I mean,
Yeah.
getting quotes from different people is very important.
Yeah, I think you're doing the right thing, and then you can line up. Maybe somebody's busy that you want to use, or maybe you build a new relationship with somebody else. I know I've been pitching you to try and use Matt Brownback, who was kind of like a family friend. I went to high school with him. I think he might be able to help you out. But anybody that you can use and try to
I
build
did
those
I did talk
relationships.
to him.
What?
I did talk to him the last like two days ago, so I'm gonna get a
Oh,
quote from
cool.
him. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think my vote's for him. I think he'll end up giving you the best deal. So I'm interested to see how that works out. I love smaller contractors too. I think they always have the best price. Once they get a little bit bigger, I think they get a little bit more expensive. Maybe I'm wrong in that, but that's usually the contractors that I like to use, at least at this moment.
Yeah, and then well, there's also the thing I mentioned about like the more you use somebody, the the better they'll be to you, like the more important. So like I called this contractor that worked on the duplex 2 years ago, and it's tough because you're like, I remember them obviously because they're the only contractor I use, but they've had how many clients in the last 2 years? Are they going to know who I am? So I called him and I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. You did work. He was like, oh yeah, I have you saved in my phone as Tyler Aberdeen Investor. So,
Let's
but
go. You got
but
investor
then
tied to your name. That's big. That's big time.
but like part of me is like, okay, let me use him for all three because it'll put me, you know, in his mind more, and the more you can use somebody. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you get quotes from different people, and I'm not saying go with the cheapest, but you know, weigh out your options once you get the quotes back.
Yeah, one thing you brought up, I forgot to mention earlier. I got some other really good news. I mean, it's not great, but it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy about it. So we talked about Mill Street downstairs, how I was renting it out to the GAs for a lot cheaper, and I was paying utilities. When you talked about your water bill and paying for that utility, it reminded me of this. We got another GA. The coach hired a third GA that's actually going to be moving into that house. So we were going to like get a very low amount of rent. I think it was like 325 per person. And there was just two people moving in there, so like 650 plus we were paying utilities. Really weren't making a ton of money. But now with the third guy in there, it's going to be 975 for the downstairs there, and then we're getting $2,000 upstairs. So overall, up to 2,900. I think our mortgage there is like roughly 1,700, so about 1,200 bucks in cash flow. The property we just redid upstairs as well, so next year we plan on bumping that $2,000 up a lot. Actually, I might have misspoke. We might actually only be getting 1,500 upstairs. Because we were so desperate to get that house filled. We were just happy to get it filled with the way that it just didn't look good. So the goal is next year to bump it up to the $2,000 at roughly 500 bucks a kid for the 4 bedrooms upstairs. So a little bit worse upstairs, and then downstairs we'll see how things go with the GA situation. If we want to keep them there as kind of a place that they go, and like we give them a little bit of cheaper rent, we pay for the utilities. Maybe they get a fourth GA, and then it's like $1,200 downstairs and 2,000 upstairs. We'll be looking like much better. So we'll see, but like right now, an extra 300 bucks, that kind of just equals out to what the utilities are going to be. So we're making out a little bit better there. So I was very happy to get that information.
Yeah, that's awesome. And they're, being GAs, you would assume they're great tenants and going to pay on time, and like they're connected to the football team, which you're still like very much involved with, and that's kind of your niche there. So yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But we'll close out on my good news that I got yesterday when I was talking to you. So um, I mentioned that we had with the new property, we had a termite inspection, and we did end up finding termites, unfortunately. Um, and so because we had that inspection clause in there for termites, we basically were then allowed to ask the seller to pay for the termite remediation. And on top of that, so we got a quote for the remediation, but that doesn't really involve like in order to remediate termites that are in the studs behind drywall, you have to, tear the drywall down, spray the wood, and then put the drywall back. And the quote doesn't really cover like putting the drywall back and painting and, mudding and stuff like that. So we basically went back to them and said like, hey, we want you to pay for the remediation that we got a quote. So they'll pay this company directly, get it fixed. But we also want 3% towards closing cost. And that is for us to, kind of put the wall back and in these different places. So, me and you were like, they're not going to say yes, I don't think. But yesterday I found out they actually said yes to both. So, which is huge because legally you're allowed to ask for 3% back, seller to help with closing cost. And in this case, it's like $13,000, we'll say. And like, so I was planning on putting down like roughly 20,000 for my down payment and roughly 20,000 for closing costs. So like, we'll just say 40 out of pocket. Well, now I'm literally 25 out of pocket. So I was talking to Tommy yesterday. I was like, I feel like I just made $15,000. She's like, yeah, I mean, you basically did. So that was huge. Again, like if they were to say no, and we were to back out, well, now they have this inspection. They're going to need to get it fixed. They're going to need to tear the drywall out. They're going to need to repair the drywall after it's remediated. So, it's kind of a tough situation, I guess, for the seller, but I think, we're going to close now. They're they're going to walk away with a little bit less money, but they don't want to restart from the beginning and put it back on the
And thinking
market.
it through, like I know initially I thought there was no way, especially with like the other offers that they got, but the other offers, to our knowledge, still included like traditional
All
inspections.
inspections, yeah.
So if they were going to go with somebody else's offer, they were most likely going to see the termites, right? That was going to happen, and then they were also going to potentially find something else wrong with the house, like maybe they then wanted extra money for the roof and they wanted this
But
and
yeah, like
that. So
for
thinking,
example, sorry to cut you off, but like there's a leak in the sunroom roof and there's water damage on the beams and the ceiling from the roof because I said there's skylights in the roof. There's a leak there that you can obviously see that we have to fix immediately and pay for out of pocket. And because we didn't get an inspection, we can't ask for any money to fix the roof. So to your point, like somebody else could come in and ask for, oh, I want you to fix the roof before we buy it. So yeah.
plus, if you sell the house for 430, right? He listed it for 430. He wanted 430. Him and his realtor. It's not like they didn't talk. Like, what can we get? What can't we get? Like, I know sometimes in your market, there's been some common listings that are like 100K lower, and they're like, let's just get the highest bidder. I
Yeah.
still don't understand that, but like, I think they probably talked about it. 430 is what they wanted. That's what made sense for them. They get the 450 offer, and then like they had some flexibility to drop a little bit. So to
Yeah,
lose
so
the
they're
three
still
percent,
walking away with the 435 basically.
yeah.
And honestly, I use the same strategy to buy my current house. And I recommend it to anybody that's buying their first house that wants to put the least amount of money out of pocket is you offer 3% over, but then ask for 3% back towards closing. So your monthly payment's going to be a tiny bit higher because you're offering more. The seller's going to walk away with the same amount, but you're going to pay 3% less at closing, basically. So you leave more money in your pocket. The seller gets the same amount. And that's kind of what's going on here.
Yeah, so like for a $300,000 house, if you get 3% back, you're getting $10,000 towards your closing costs. So if
Right.
your closing costs at 10%, let's say you're putting 5% down, what's that, $15,000? You're only putting $5,000 down now because of that scenario. Granted, there's
Well, no,
other,
because 15,000 would be your down payment, but then you'd have $10,000 closing cost on top of it.
yeah, I meant just the principal payment, like to the bank, would be the $5,000. Then you have your closing costs and everything else on top of it, for sure. But you're still dropping it a ton. Like you're
Yeah, so
making it much more affordable.
you would offer 310. The seller would then give you 10. They're still getting their 300 that they listed it for. And so that's a really common thing that happens.
Yeah, and your mortgage payment, I don't have the calculator in front of me, but let's say it's $1,500. It might go up to 1,550 with that, maybe
Yeah,
fifteen
not
twenty
even.
five.
Yeah.
So you go up $25 a month in payment, but you save $10,000 up front in closing or like your initial down payment on the house. It seems like a no brainer to offer the extra 3% on the sale and then get it back at closing.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. Saving 15 grand on what I expected to spend. So, yeah, it'll probably go towards some extra renovations.
Yeah, Danielle, if you listen to our podcast, you can use that for
So
your kitchen remodel. Tell Ty now you get the kitchen remodel before you
I'm
move
editing
in,
this part out.
as well as your bathroom.
Yeah, let's spend $30,000 on a kitchen because we saved 15.
Girl math, Ty. Girl math.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much is everything that I had this week. So, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for episode 23.
Thanks.